So I wanted to start by taking you back to your St. Louis days, John Burroughs School, where you attended. How much was sports a part of your early life there?
Sports has been part of my life well before I entered into middle school and high school and sort of varsity sports. I was raised by a single mom, so like that was a great way to just get me out of the house and have me burn off energy and do something. So I played soccer as a little kid and baseball as soon as I could, and then once I got to Burroughs, the more organized team sports were on the table too, and the thing at Burroughs is in 7th and 8th grade, you are required to play every sport. If you're good, bad, or indifferent at it, you just have to do it. That's what the PE portion of the day was. So you'd go through, we had to learn how to wrestle, you had to swim, you had to basketball, everything. And then by ninth grade, you're allowed to kind of pick and choose. And it's great. And I was a 3-sport varsity athlete. I did swimming, baseball, and football. It was a great way to, bond with your classmates. It's a great way to burn off energy, and it's just a great way to kind of. It was a wildly important part of my kind of mental health, I think.
So how quickly did you realize kind of your sports?
Well, I don't know. It was another sort of wonderful thing about Burroughs and the experience there was that not only were you encouraged to try all the sports, you were basically encouraged to try everything. Performing arts, plastic arts, all this stuff, industrial design, like regular core curriculum stuff also. And you could see if you had a talent or a desire to kind of pursue something. And I took to football and baseball right away. And I was always a pretty good swimmer. I just had never been on a swim team before. I originally started playing basketball, I think, in 9th grade, and I realized like that wasn't my jam. I was a decent rebounder, but not quite much else. Mm-hmm. But then we started the swim team. I was on the inaugural men's varsity swim team, I think in 10th grade. We were called the Lemmings.
How was it?
We were fine. We had a couple good guys. I was always a middling swimmer, but it was fun. Like it was something that I enjoyed. And I felt the same way once I started doing theater. When Wayne replaced one of our teachers, I think when I was a junior, late in junior year.
Wayne
Solomon. And then was around for my senior year, and he was one of the first people to really kind of encourage me that I had some sort of talent in that arena. But I could go down the list of teachers at Burroughs that were profoundly important in my life.
How about the best game you ever played in?
Of anything?
But middle school, high school, like that period.
Oh, man, we were pretty good. I think B football, we were pretty good, and we beat Country Day that year. And that's really all that mattered.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did. We definitely did. We beat them on B team. We never beat them at varsity, but we beat them on B team.
How close were you to being a Division I football player?
Not close at all.
Oh, come on. I mean, there was...
No.
I mean, I thought all you had to do was basically say yes.
No. I don't. You're wildly misinformed.
Okay.
Division I now especially, but even back then in the 80s when I graduated, I was this size. I was 6'1", 6'2", 195, 200 pounds. I would have had to put on 40 pounds of muscle to crack that code. The kind of business approach or the corporatization of sport, I wasn't interested in it. I didn't want to be a professional athlete. The dedication is too much. It didn't seem fun. It seemed like work, and it was always fun for me to play sports. It was always a pastime instead of a vocation.
You were recruited by schools.
I was recruited by small schools.
And some Ivy League?
Cornell, I think I got a recruitment, but they weren't allowed to give scholarships, and I couldn't afford to pay private tuition. It was just not an option to do that. It was just too expensive. I couldn't afford it.
Did you consider playing small school?
Again, not really.
Okay.
It would have taken too much of my time. I wanted college to be a time where I kind of figured out what I want to do with my life, and I was pretty sure I didn't want to be a professional athlete. And I don't even know, had I gone down that road, if I would have had the skills to pay the bills, so to speak.
Your high school drama teacher, Wayne Solomon, I wondered how he took a look at you, this star athlete, and he decided he was interested in you for acting.
He's done that time and time again, and I think that's, again, part of the philosophy of the school, is like, you're not meant to stay in one lane. You're meant to be, you're meant to try it all. And, and see if you like it. And if you don't, okay, you don't have to do it again. Just do it once. But if you do, hey, look at there, you found something out about yourself. And I think that was the thing. That's why he wanted us to try out. You might like it.
What made you realize you wanted to be an actor?
Well, part of it was getting encouragement from people like Wayne. And I had my teacher director in college at Mizzou was a guy called Jim Miller, legendary dude, great guy, wonderful director, and he the same way. He kind of said, "You're good at this." He wrote my letter of recommendation when I went back to Burroughs to go try to teach. He wrote my letter of recommendation to say, like, this guy knows what he's doing. And so when I finally came out to LA in 1995, it was with the at least kind of inkling that more than one person, more than me, thought I was good at this.
So it's post-college. What made you decide to call the headmaster of John Burroughs School and propose an internship?
Well, I needed a job. I needed to make some money. I had been waiting tables in St. Louis for about a year, and that was fine. But there was something about the profound impact that the school had on me that I wanted to turn that around and do something for another generation of kids. And I wanted to give something back.
And that was your thinking then?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And that's what I pitched to Keith Shahan, who was the headmaster at the time, and he said, "Sounds great. We could use you. Your family. We love you. Let's see where we can slot you in." And so I had a great year. I taught a lot of wonderful kids. I learned a lot. I read a lot. I still studied a lot. And I was able to hang out with the guy who I consider my mentor in many ways and a close personal friend for a solid year, and learn the do's and don'ts and navigating, dealing with 13-year-olds up to 18-year-olds. Like, there's a wild difference in sort of development, mentally especially, emotionally though too, and kind of learning a lot about that. And again, this was in a pre-cell phone, pre-social media era. I think there might have been like MySpace or something, but it was there was pretty much none of that. I have no idea how to navigate that world now, or how they even come close to doing it. I went back to Burroughs once a couple years ago and went and saw Wayne and another friend of mine, John Pearson, who teaches there as well. And we were hanging out and bullshitting in the classroom. And Pearson goes, look over your shoulder. And I look over my shoulder and the door, which is made of glass, and there's 300 kids out there, and they've all got cell phones.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, and it was like walking out into and most of them didn't even know who I was, or they just heard through the grapevine that somebody famous was here.
What do you remember from teaching actress Ellie Kemper?
I just remember she was very good. I remember she stood out.
Even then?
Even then, at 15, I think she was 15. And, 5 foot nothing, red hair, freckles, and she was just good. She was committed and loud and funny, and I could tell that she had talent. But I had a couple students like that also they went on and did something else with their lives. One of them was, I think, is a beautiful singer-songwriter, Leslie Stevens. Stephanie Sanditz is one of my students. She's a screenwriter now. I think she's going to direct. But yeah, we had talented kids, really talented kids. I actually I ran into I didn't run into him. He sought me out because I think Wayne gave him my email. Young man who graduated, I guess he graduated, he's probably 27, 28 now, so he graduated a few years back. But he studied to be a aerospace engineer. And
Okay.
at 25 or 26 or whatever, and he had a job, worked for Raytheon or Boeing or someplace. He decided he wanted to be an actor. So he emailed me out of the blue, said, "You don't know me, but I think you know my dad," and blah, 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 St. Louis, St. Louis, St. Louis. I said, "All right, come on, hang out, sit on my porch, pour you a cup of coffee, we'll talk about whatever." And I just saw him again. This was about 2 years after we had originally met. "How's it going?" "Oh, it's great, I'm moving out here in August. I got engaged," like blah, blah, blah. "Okay, man, good luck."
Paul Rudd, your high school girlfriend's older brother's college roommate. How'd you meet?
Through my high school girlfriend's older brother. He brought his roommate back for Thanksgiving or a long weekend or whatever. They were roommates at KU, so it wasn't that long a drive back from Lawrence to St. Louis. And yeah, that was in '88. We've known each other ever since.
And I understand, at least early on, Sega Golf was a
Well,
part of your...
when I first came out to LA, I wanted to come out to LA because I had an aunt that lived out here with her husband and his 2 kids, and I had my friends Paul and Preston and their friend Bo, and I knew Paul at that time was going to acting school out here, and Preston was working for like a management consulting company or something out here, and I came off one spring break, '92, I don't know when it was, and got to meet all their friends, and it was, it was a bunch of 20-somethings sitting around in an apartment in North Hollywood.
That you guys seemingly dubbed the shithole, right?
No, it's horrible. It was gross. Yeah, it was just a really gross, old, dilapidated North Hollywood apartment. That's all you could afford, and everyone was unemployed, and I was on spring break, so it was like, what is there to do? Well, we're gonna play some video games. And so we just played Sega Golf nonstop, Sega football nonstop, just like you do when you're 20, whatever, and you have nothing to do. You wait until it gets dark when you can go play pool or do something fun,
So Paul Rudd says you're the most competitive person he's ever met. In what ways are you competitive?
I think anybody that's successful is competitive. I think you're competitive. I think anybody that succeeds in in their chosen field of work.
Yeah, but then Paul's competitive. But
Of course
you're
he
the
is.
most. I mean, he's saying you're the most competitive person he's ever met.
I don't necessarily think that's true. Because Paul is very competitive.
But that's everybody I talked to that's close to you. That was something they brought up.
I do compete, and I play to win, and I love to win. I don't like losing. I've gotten a lot more mellow in my old age, to the point where I can let it go. But
What used to happen?
I'd get furious, like especially like when I was a kid. Just like it was just rage stroke out, like lose my mind if I lost anything. But that doesn't happen anymore.
How would people react?
Well, you react when you see a kid losing shit. You're like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Calm down. But I was never like a trash talker. I never did that stuff. I just really liked playing my hardest and inspiring other people to play hard too. It was really the only way I knew how to do that. But yeah, like I remember when I was auditioning for Don Draper that, I was at the bottom of everybody's list. Nobody really wanted to hire the guy from the Lifetime show, The Division. They wanted to hire a TV star or a movie star or somebody famous, because that's what you did back then. And I just remember thinking like, I'm not gonna let this go. I'm not gonna like self-sabotage or any of this. I'm gonna try my hardest at every audition, and there were like 8 of them, and I'm gonna succeed. I really, really want to succeed. And I kind of just put it out there, and it worked.
So everybody I spoke to close to you said you were always popular, good looking, exceptionally smart, center of attention for as long as they can remember. Care to respond?
I don't know. Yeah, I've always been. My mom taught me. I've only had my mom in my life for 10 years, but she taught me to be proud of being exceptional. Kind of the don't hide your light under a bushel kind of a situation, and to try hard and to succeed, and to be a good person, but also to be be engaged. That's I was always in like after school programs, and I was always in sports, and I was always in stuff because it was like you only get one shot at this. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of everything you can? It's why she wanted me to go to Burroughs. She met a friend of a friend, I guess, back in the 70s, who she just found to be a fascinating person, and she was like, "Why are you so interesting? And where did you grow up?" My mom came from a tiny town in southern Missouri, St. Genevieve, population 1,000. And so when she got out of there, she was like, "All right, there's a big world out there, and it seems a shame to not take advantage of it." So I read everything I could get my hands on, and I had a very healthy respect for school. I paid attention in class, mostly because I liked it. I found it interesting. And I just remember thinking like, this is why we're here.
Right.
We're not here to like around and mess around. And also, like, not for nothing, I was paying a lot of money, or somebody was paying a lot of money.
Right.
Like, that was told to me very early, like, don't waste this. Don't.
But at that age, it's hard to be aware of that and have an
I
appreciation
was made
and
aware
respect
of
for
it.
Yeah.
I was very much made aware of it by people in my life. And I think, losing a parent at that age kind of crystallizes a lot of things. When, the idea of the impermanence of things is you're made aware of probably too early, but very early on.
But I want to ask you about your parents more coming up, but I was talking to your best friend, John, who believes you've always had a chip on your shoulder. He said that he thinks has really influenced your determination. What do you think?
I think that's probably accurate. I think John and I bonded because we were both kind of from the wrong part of town. He was from deep West County, kind of in the sticks, and I was from North County, and no one lived by us.
And he had like a 40-acre
yeah, he lived on like a giant,
yeah.
Thing with a pond, and I lived in an old, broken down house that used to be a fancy house. And it was weird. It was just, there was something about that was like, okay, yeah, sure, if you want to say it's a chip on your shoulder, just some sort of motivational aspect, it's the old story, like, what makes Sammy run? Like, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it worked.
How do you think not achieving success until later in life impacted you?
I honestly don't. I've been asked this question a million times,
Right.
and I don't really know how to answer it, in the sense of, I only know one way of how I've gotten to where I've gotten. I can't imagine what it would be like, especially now in a always on, kind of always hyper-connected, always oversharing way, what it would be like to have to manage success and a career and everything in my 20s. I know I was not prepared for it. I look at these kids who are winning awards and being exceptional, and I think, like, I could barely like do my laundry when I was in my 20s. Like, I just wasn't equipped. But I don't know. I think I'm obviously very happy with the success I've achieved, but it's.
Appreciate it more?
I think. Sure. I think anybody that. I guarantee you, kids in their 20s appreciate their success. It's just a different form of appreciation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether that's buying cars and flying private planes or whatever. The stuff never really did it for me. It was the fact, again, that I achieved something, and I could point to it. It's nice to have, like, reminders and awards and things like that. Those are great, and I do feel like I've earned them, and I worked very hard for them, and all that stuff. But it was the achievement itself was what I was really happiest about. Am happiest about.
On the topic of success, Mad Men creator Matthew Weiner said, "Success is lonely. Your struggle has ended, but you don't trust it." Your thoughts?
That's pretty accurate. I think that, you know, that's another version of saying be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And I think that it takes a level of maturity and real kind of self-confidence to trust that your success is earned, and to trust that your happiness is earned. And I think you need a real good kind of internal compass to figure that out. And it's hard. I mean, it's a lot of people have said, you know, people that get famous go crazy, and there's some version of that that's true. It's because it's not easy. You know, the whole world sort of looking at you. You have to. It takes a minute to kind of process that and be okay with it.
So you just finished teaching a year of eighth grade drama at the John Burroughs School. You make the decision with, I think, like $150 to your name to leave St. Louis, drive your '86 Toyota Corolla cross country to LA. At that point, what are you hoping for how it'll work out?
I remember being a little, like, pretty terrified, but also excited. I was 25 years old. I mean, you're still kind of bulletproof then. By this point, I'd lost my dad when I was 20, and so I was kind of like, well, it's kind of a clean slate. Like, why not go to LA? Why not go west, young man, see what's out there? I had an aunt, I had family, and I had several friends, and I thought, okay, I bet this is manageable, at the very least. I knew I could wait tables anywhere in the world. I'm a good enough bartender and waiter, and speak a little Spanish. Like, I'm fine. So I knew I could land on my feet and figure it out. But it's daunting. I mean, the first week I was here, my aunt gave me what was then called, well, it's still called, but what every car in LA had to have in it, which was called the Thomas Guide, which is a Yellow Pages size map of LA. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You know, the map of St. Louis, you can fit in your wallet. Like, this thing is this big and it has 150 pages in it. And
No
now obviously we have
Maps on the
GPS
phone.
and Google and that and whatever, but
Yeah.
like, this was
Right.
analog.
Right.
And she's like, here you go. Everyone needs one. Good luck. You're like, okay, and you had to kind of figure out where you're going. I was like, I'm never going to figure this out.
Well, so you and your best friend, or you and your close friend Preston, share a car, and I think this car had holes in the roof, holes in the floors. You eventually rehab it, the two of you together. But tell about it being 1 a.m. You get pulled over, and you have to walk from downtown LA back home to Silver Lake.
I think I still had a Missouri driver's license, which was a way to get around kind of paying the California DMV, the however much money to blah, blah, blah. It's a pain. And Preston and I shared this car it was a convertible VW, but the fact that it was a convertible was in name only, because you would put the roof up and the roof was just shredded. And the driver's seat was held up by a piece of wood that wedged in like that. And it had no gas gauge, so we'd have to hit the odometer every time we'd fill up the tank. And right around 200 miles, it was like, let's talk about filling up again. So, we were driving home from something on the west side, and we were cruising down 6th Street, and down some hill, and there's a stoplight at the bottom of the hill, and I was driving, it's like, it turns yellow. I'm like, we got this, vroom. Cop right behind us pulls me over. I pull over immediately. All right, buddy. Because you ran that light. I said, well, did I? It was kind of yellow. Like, really? It's 2 a.m. Just going home. You got anything to drink? No, we're fine. License and registration. Give him my license. Give him the registration. It was his Missouri license. I said, yeah, that's where I live. He goes, hold on. He says, no, you have parking tickets here from 2 years back. I'm like, oh, God. here we go. So he says, this is an invalid license. And I was like, no, it isn't. It doesn't expire for 2 more years. Like, it's nothing invalid about it. It's another state. Sorry, I gotta write you a ticket, and we have to tow the car. Can't let you drive home. I was like, what do you mean? He can't drive it? And Preston at that point had wrist surgery or something, and it was a manual transmission, so he literally couldn't drive it. I was like, oh, can I shift for him? Like, what? So we had to walk back, through a very dicey part of LA to our home. And on the way, helicopters, like, what is going on? Like, probably not a great sign. Go, can we just cut through? We live on the other side, and there's a cop there. He goes, no, gotta go around. Like, we just literally, it's like 2 a.m. Can we just walk? No. Why? Somebody just got shot there. Like, well, okay, we'll walk around then. Sounds like a good plan, walking around.
Around this time, you'd have, I think, a variety of jobs, one of which, as you've spoken about before, you worked briefly on a softcore porn set.
Yeah, that was my friend Cappy Kilburn, who was our college stage manager.
Right.
I had a group of friends that lived out here that were from college, and we were all sitting around commiserating one night, just like, none of us had jobs, and we were just like, we're eating, a big bowl of pasta that we all chipped in to make or whatever, and I was probably 26, been out here a year. I was like, I need a job, man. Catering isn't working out. I'm like, no. She goes, you can have my job. I'm sick of it. I can't deal with it anymore. I was like, what's your job? She's like, set dressing. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, isn't that a thing that you need a skill set and something? She goes, no, you don't. And certainly not for this. I was like, oh, I'm not in the union. Like, is this? She goes, no. And she's got like a bucket of tools. She goes, here, take this. Show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's this warehouse in downtown LA. And I was like, this is the shadiest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was, and I worked there for like a month.
Why was
2
it
weeks.
depressing?
Well, why do you think? You're just looking at like the most sort of sad people in the world that are doing this. It was just a bummer. Like, it's just like, it was not the side of the industry that inspires.
How did not getting an acting job for 3 years impact your confidence?
You have to have a pretty thick skin to do anything in this business, and you have to kind of understand that there's there's a rhyme or reason sometimes, and then sometimes you just get blind lucky. And I wasn't working, but I was auditioning, like a million auditions, and I kept getting called back. Like, the idea of somebody saying like, oh, I like you, might not be for this thing, but there's going to be another thing. And so I had that kind of feedback from casting directors and producers and directors and people like that. And I was like, okay. And I auditioned for like a lot of cool stuff, like Steven Spielberg. Like,
What do you remember from meeting with him?
well, I didn't meet him.
Okay.
I met the woman who directed the film that he was producing, which is called Deep Impact. And I didn't get the job. Jon Favreau did. But you have to find the positive to pull away from whatever rejection you have, or you're just going to spiral. But I was able to kind of, for whatever reason, able to kind of understand that there's positives to be taken from it.
Explain how signing a contract right before the final audition ended up messing with your head.
Oh, it's testing for a pilot, especially for a network pilot, is such a mind because you're in a space this size with all the other people that they're considering hiring other than you. And it's kind of like a feeding frenzy. Just go, and you have to go in and do your thing, and they make you sign your contract before you go in because they basically, when they're making the decision on who to hire, they're going, this guy costs this guy costs this, this guy costs this. And that way they maintain all the leverage. You can't say like, oh, they want me, so guess what? I'm going to charge double the rate. So it's all buttoned up before you go in there, and you think, if I get this job, I'm going to make more money than I've ever seen in my life. All my bills are going to be paid. I'm going to be able to pay my back rent. I'm going to be able to go Christmas shopping. I'm going to be able to, which is the last thing you want to be thinking about before you go in and try to make people believe that you're an alien doctor or something. You know what I mean? So,
But it would creep into your head.
oh, of course. Everybody will tell you. Everybody will tell you that auditioning is it's the worst. I remember reading Steve Martin's book, and he was like, the day I was able to stop auditioning was like the greatest day of my life as a performer, because it's so unnatural and awful, and yet it's the only thing we got.
Why did you have a hard time giving up waitering?
I didn't have a hard time. It was a great way to make money, especially in LA. And you meet you get a cool group of people, and if you work at a nice place or a place that people are friendly and not horrible, you can have a pretty nice time. And you work nights, so you don't have to. You have your days free to go to auditions or whatever. Like it's a pretty great way to. There's a reason that most struggling actors are waiters, because it's a decent money and it's a decent schedule.
So there's a great quote from a story on you describing the Mad Men character that you played, and it was, quote, Don Draper, the illegitimate child of Depression-era losers who, through preternatural ambition, intuition, and a freakish twist of fate, reinvents himself as a prince of Madison Avenue. What appealed to you about the role?
That's a pretty great description of a pretty great role. I hadn't seen that before. And I certainly had never read a script like that before. And I don't know, there was just a lot about it to play. You've got this guy who's on the surface, this wildly confident alpha, kind of prototype. But behind the scenes, it's all it's all a sham. And Matthew wrote an amazing pilot script, and he created an amazing world for 92 episodes. In a TV landscape in the early 2000s, obviously we're in a completely different time now with streaming and this and that, and every iteration of television drama is being kind of exploded and reconstituted. But back then it was like there were cop shows, there were doctor shows, and there were lawyer shows. And Sopranos kind of changed it, and then Mad Men changed it, and then Breaking Bad changed it. The Wire changed it. But that's what you had to deal with, or soap operas.
Matthew Weiner, the Mad Men creator, was previously a writer on The Sopranos. The HBO passed on the show. AMC ends up getting it. I think he knew from your first audition that you were who he wanted, but you weren't the big name, established actor at the time, so you had to audition time after time after time before finally getting it. After you get the part, you and Weiner go for a walk afterwards. What does he tell you about the role?
Well, he told me basically, he goes, "Do you want to hear the backstory?" And I was like, "Sure." And he goes into this whole thing about how he was son of a prostitute and this and that, and never knew his dad, and his stepdad was awful. And I was like, wow, like, you write all this down, or are you just like free associating? Like, what's going on? And it was, we got to kind of see that writ large as the series progressed.
The first time you were in costume, in your dressing room, you're looking in the mirror, reciting your lines. What do you see?
I remember going to set that day. We shot the pilot at Silver Cup Studios in Brooklyn, New York. And I remember, you get to set at 5:30 in the morning or whatever. Weirdly, there was a dead body in the parking lot. Someone had fallen out of a car off the bridge that went right over the thing and then splatted in the parking lot. So there was one of those little weird cop tricycles and a sheet. And we were all like, what's going on in the parking lot? like somebody died.
Legitimately.
Yeah. But I remember thinking like, putting all the gear on and going through hair and makeup and whatever, and then thinking to myself, well, okay, like you got the job, now you just have to do it. This is what you wanted, so go do it now. And the first thing we shot was a 3.5-page scene with me and John Slattery, and we're yammering at each other, and I have to go in, take off my shirt, get another shirt out, put 2 Alka-Seltzer in a thing, blah, 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 to untie my tie, retie my tie, and miss a button, because the end of the scene is you missed a button. And we do this thing. First time I do it, nail it. And Slattery's like, holy shit, you got a lot to do in this scene. And he starts breaking my balls. I'm like, just give me the cues. I'll be all right. So yeah, it was like, you got it, now go do it.
Didn't one of the times, though, when you were looking in the mirror reciting your lines, you said you saw your dad?
I mean, that's, you know, I look like my dad. I see my dad all the time. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of my dad in Don Draper.
One of the stories I read, I think it was season 3, the Draper character's on a bender driving down the street and throws his empty glass out the window. Where did that story come from?
True story from my life. My dad did that. I told Matt that story, and he wrote it into the script. Different times.
How would you use memories of him to kind of influence how
I think there's a lot of actors that do that kind of work. I'm not that guy. I don't like to mind my personal life necessarily for that stuff. I really just like to be present in the scene, and I find that when you're actively listening and you're actively present and you're it's like tennis. You're knocking the ball back and forth across the net, and when you're with a really good actor and a really good tennis player, you play better. I don't like to go like beat my head against a wall for a week so I can be sad in a scene.
And it's interesting you say that, because others close to you have said, like, you know, the role caused you to kind of like dig up the soil of family stuff. Others have said the like deepness of the character weighed heavily on you.
It's not fun to play kind of a sad person day in and day out for 9 years. I mean, it's fun, but it's not, you know, it's not like doing a light comedy. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be a lead on a television show, full stop. Like, the hours are terrible. You know, you don't have much of a life.
But whether playing like a happy character or sad character, because it is just a character you're playing, how does it, what's the difference you've noticed in how?
I think it's mostly, it's just exhausting when you're the lead of anything. Mm-hmm. You're in, especially for me playing Don Draper, you're in every scene. You don't have a day off. I didn't have a day off for like 3 weeks at one point, because I was doing reshoots on The Town, and I was shooting Bridesmaids also, and so I had like, I worked 21 days in a row. And you know, you're going to bed at 2 in the morning, you're waking up at 6, you're going to bed at, you know, midnight, you're waking up at 5. You get tired. It's exhausting. But, you know, the energizing part of it is when you're on stage and they call action.
You mentioned your parents earlier. How often do you think of them?
Often. You know, I probably wouldn't say that I sit and have like a session of thinking of my parents, but I will be reminded of them for various reasons in and out of day-to-day life. You know, I obviously miss them. Wish they were able to kind of be a part of all of this. But again, you know, that's my reality. Like, I don't have that. So it's hard for me to say that where I would have been had I had that positive or negative.
What were the situations in which you wonder what they would say to you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I'm sure they would have some questions about how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. I don't know. You know, I'm my mother's only son and one of 3 children that my father had. So I'm sure there would be a lot of questions. I have no idea what, you know.
What were their ambitions for you?
I think obviously, like any parent, they want their kid to be happy. I think like any parent, they want their kid to be safe and successful and whatnot. There was a reason my mom signed me up for all those after-school classes, and there was a reason that she made sure I had a book in my hands at all times and made sure I did my homework and made sure that I achieved.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but she was the one that saved the money for you to go
Well, yeah,
to
I mean, it was her
Burroughs
kind of
school.
nest egg that when she passed away, that was sort of bequeathed to me.
How much do you think like that money and allowing you to go there impacted your life?
Immensely. Education it's the most important thing in a kid's life, and I got the Cadillac version of that.
She had her colon removed, 2 feet of, I think, cancerous intestine, ends up passing away in her 30s. You were 10 at the time, and I believe you less remember the death and more remember the impact it had on your family. In what ways?
I mean, losing a parent at a young age is I think the only worst thing to do is lose a child, which I was watching my grandfather and grandmother lose their child, their oldest child. She's 35 years old. It's too soon. And it's a terrible way to die. It just is. And I remember being a little kid, no capacity to process it. And there was no such thing as, or at least I wasn't exposed to, therapists or anybody to talk about it. So I was just kind of left to my own devices, and it's a friend of mine lost his wife recently, and he describes this. He says, it's not a vacuum, it's not a void, it's a blast crater.
What do you mean?
It's a crater, and you realize this explodes, and you have to kind of manage it. But there's not only the void, but there's the collateral damage of it. And again, when you're a kid, you just don't have the capacity to deal. You don't know what it's like to mourn or grieve or go through the famous sort of processes, because you're a kid. You think everything lives forever.
Your dad was a big shot in St. Louis, running the family business for a while. Also a big guy. I think he was like 6'3", 300 pounds. His first wife passed away. He had, was left with 2 daughters out of that. Then his next wife, your mom, divorced him, ends up passing away, and he's left with you. How did he handle all of that?
Again, I never really got to have those kind of adult conversations, so I don't really know. But just knowing how difficult that is in a vacuum, I'm sure it was devastating for him.
And you said you felt he was unfulfilled in many ways.
Again, what do I know? I can postulate and kind of throw out theories and things. I'll never know. That's the thing about death. It's permanent.
At the time, why was it so tough for you living with your dad and then his mom, your grandma?
Well, 3 generations under one roof is tricky.
Right.
I'm like a 80s kid. Like, all I wanted to do was play Atari. And my grandma was like, what is this Atari thing? Like, go outside and rake the leaves or something. It was a very strange existence. And again, another reason why having the outlet of going to school, going to Burroughs, school would start at 8 o'clock, and we would be at school till at least 4. And if you had athletics or theater or whatever, you'd be there till 6:30. So it was just great to be out of the house and in that environment.
And I heard she was a tough lady.
She was, born in 1904, like lived through the Depression, like broke her back when she was 16, falling off a trolley or something. You're just like, Jesus, like, it's. I've learned throughout my life to not be judgmental about people until you really know what they've been through. And when I realized, like, my grandmother's, both sides, my grandfather, been through, you're like, you deserve to. You've earned having a harder outlook on life, probably.
How well do you recall watching The Field of Dreams when you were at University of Texas?
Are you referring to a specific story when I called my sister?
Yeah.
It was a weird, great thing. I remember watching it. I love that movie, first of all, because I love baseball. And Dad was, he wasn't dead yet. He was sick. And it was on TV, whatever, it was on network TV. And I just remember watching it and kind of really being moved by it and going to pick up the phone to call my sister, and she was on the phone. That weird thing that used to happen when people talked on landlines, where sometimes you'd pick up the phone before it rang, and oh, hi, hello, and I was like, that is weird. Like it's a very strange thing.
So you're at University of Texas in Austin. Your grandma passes away while you're there. Short time after, your dad ends up passing away, and you said that that kind of changed everything, and there was this profound sense of being alone.
I mean, I had friends, and I had, sisters, and I had aunts and uncles, but I didn't have mom and dad. And I give thanks, to the people in my life who helped me reorient during that time, which were these really close family friends. The Simmonses, the Clarks, and the Wilsons, and they each individually met with me and sort of sat me down and said, like, look, you're going through a hard time. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You just got to kind of get back on your feet and we'll get you going again. And it was profoundly helpful. And that's the time at which I got into therapy for the first time. My sister was like, you need to see somebody.
And what did she say that got you to finally go?
Well, she's like, you're sleeping till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, something's not right. You need to see somebody. You're not well. And, for me, it was like, oh, I'll be fine. It's like, stiff upper lip, kind of Midwestern, like, don't worry about it, I'm fine. You're not fine. This is not fine.
Your friend said even when they knew you were struggling, you always had the brave face.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're kind of taught as polite Midwesterners. Is like, don't worry about it, son. Don't want to overshare, fine. But, seeing the therapist at that time was profoundly helpful, because it does what it does. It gives you another perspective on something that you can't quite figure out. And she was able to really kind of, again, reorient my kind of way of thinking. And she put me on a medication that changed my brain chemistry enough to where, okay, I'm feeling a little better. I can get up and go to work. I can get up and go to school. I can do my work on time. I can self-motivate again. I mean, sometimes that's what you need. And it's like, it's got the most interesting stigma, but people think if you break your ankle, you're not expected to just walk it off.
Right.
But if your brain chemistry is somehow a little tweaked, you're somehow expected to just deal with it. It's like, well, but there's a medicine that fixes it.
And to go back to what you said about the 3 families that were so helpful, you made the point that it wasn't the therapy as much as the people in your life that didn't have to be kind, but were.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big reason why I take meetings with kids that come out here and say, try to tell them, give them a what's up with moving to LA. It's a big reason why I wanted to go back and teach. It's a big reason why I try to lead with kindness, because I'm a perfect example of what happens when you do that to somebody that you don't need to. It's easy to fall down, especially in this industry. It's easy to fall down some kind of narcissistic spiral where you're the most important thing in the world and blah 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 blah. But it's wildly helpful when you remember that you can pay it forward in many ways.
You said Mad Men ending was like Mourning, and you go through all the stages of grief. How did that come out in you?
You're losing something that you spent, in my case, better part of a decade with.
Right.
So you're going from kind of one reality to a completely different one. And it's hard. It's I think probably still the one thing that I'm really known for. I've got other things that I'm very proud of in my career, but it's that there's one that's pretty outsized. And it's a challenge. You have to kind of, like I said, reorient your existence to figure out okay, what am I going to do with my days? Like it used to be from March to August, I knew what I was doing. And then attendant with that comes, do people think I'm any good in anything else? Do people want to see me doing anything else? Am I a one-trick pony? All this other stuff comes into play.
And that's what you're thinking.
Well,
at the
you're
time.
just because you're unemployed for the first time in 9 years. It sucks. It sucks being unemployed.
And really, you even felt that then, even though, I mean, you're deservedly almost unemployed. Just killed it at this show for however many
that
seasons.
That kind of thing never goes away. But when you're, again, I guess old enough or mature enough, you can understand that that's a thought that you have, and then understand that that's ridiculous, and you'll be fine.
To what extent did the show ending impact you more than you thought it would?
In that way, I think, really. And I think again, and I'd never been on anything that long. Most of us hadn't. So I think, it was just surprising, and it was challenging, just and then you're trying to navigate, what other people are thinking and all this. It's just crazy. It's just a crazy time.
How do you replicate the high of being TV's leading man?
You don't. I think there's a reason that so few people have done it more than once. But it's also like it's an important lesson to let that be its thing. Let that be what that was. This period of time from 2006 to 2015, that was a hell of a run. And don't chase after that again. Go have another experience. Go look for something else to do. The reason I think that Mad Men was so successful was that nobody thought it would be successful. You look at what's popular on TV now, and they're kind of the outliers. The things the sure bets that people are, this is going to be amazing. People are like, seen that guy do that before. So I get a chance to work on things now that are exciting and fun and funny, and I get to work with the people who I've established relationships over the last 15 years of my career.
And what was that process like for you of figuring out what to do professionally post?
I don't really know. I certainly didn't have any kind of overarching strategy or.
But really, not.
No, again, it's not really how I've.
Was that intentional?
Yeah, but it's just the only way I really know how to do stuff. I'm not a big master planner. That's not how my brain works, really. I'm more of just okay, well, let's see where this goes. Let's see where this trail leads. And again, I think especially in this, it's like holding on to sand. The tighter you grip it, the less you have. And I've been fortunate enough to work a lot of the people that I've worked with have really wanted to work with me again. And that's really nice. So I've just been taking it as it comes.
How do you feel about being the name carrying a film?
It's interesting. I haven't had it that many times. It certainly gives you a deep, deep understanding and respect for the people that do it all the time. Whether it's Ben Affleck or Matt Damon or George Clooney or, whoever it is, Jennifer Lawrence, you think oh man, it can be super stressful. But
In what way?
well, it's interesting. It can be stressful if you let it, I guess is the right way to look at it. And the people that really think the movie's going to succeed or fail because of you, I think most of the guys that are in that position don't think that. They're like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing my job. The movie succeeds or fails for a million different reasons. It's not just on me. And my job whenever I've been the lead of a film is my job is to show up on set every day, ready to go, prepared, and give 100%, and be the best I can be. I can't control the marketing. I can't control whatever comes out the same weekend. I picked the script because I liked it. And whether that's, $1 Million Arm or Baby Driver, I picked those scripts because I liked them. And, my job is, again, I show up, I do my job, and it turns out people like working with me.
You said you haven't had the lead that many times in films, but some of that's been by choice too, right?
I haven't been, offered giant leads in many things, which is fine. I've turned down a few of them because I didn't like it.
Right.
And I'm allowed to do that. But yeah, and sometimes it's fun to just be the guy who walks in for 2 scenes and makes everybody laugh and then leaves. You don't have to be on location for 6 months. You can go in for a week and bail out.
Even somebody like you who's had as much success in acting as you've now had, how challenging is it to get the parts you truly want?
It's always challenging, and I think anybody will tell you that. There's always somebody else. There's always a younger, prettier, taller version of you. If you have a healthy kind of perspective on all of it and realize that it's a pretty long game, you'll be all right.
I believe you've mentioned you're interested in starting to do some of these self-generating projects like Reese Witherspoon or a Brad Pitt does. How do you go about doing that?
At a certain point in your life, you acquire people in your circle who have different skill sets and are differently talented at things. So you'll meet a director who you really like and you think, oh man, let's go grab a camera and just shoot something weird. Or you'll meet a writer who you really like who's like, oh, I'm thinking about writing this thing, blah, blah, blah. And hey, let's sit around a table and hash it out. So I think especially with someone like Reese, who's always been very kind of focused and driven, I think that it's an amazing time right now because there's just so many outlets. You can get something, write it up, film it, put it on YouTube for, change of $100 bill. And if somebody sees it, the right person sees it and the right people like it, it can be on HBO next year. And you're just like, oh, with a real crew and a real thing and a real budget. And it's a good time to be kind of a content creator, horrible term. But the downside of it is that there's just a lot of noise. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's, ephemeral and meaningless. And the trick is to kind of distill. That's going to be the next, I think, focus of where media is looking, is how to distill all of that into, it used to be it was your Facebook feed, but now that's kind of, that algorithm got a little skewed and realized that people were taking advantage of that. So now it's like, what is it, your Netflix queue, but then you got to do Hulu also and Amazon and this and that and the other, and you go, how can you keep up with it?
Do you have plans to do some of the self-generating?
I don't have any plans right now.
Okay.
I don't have anything in the pipeline.
But just desire?
Yeah, sure. It's part of it is, back in the old days, controlling your own destiny as an actor was like an impossibility. You were beholden to the studios back in the old days, and you were beholden to producers or directors in the 80s and 90s, and it was really challenging. And now you can kind of just say, well, all right, well, I'm going to produce this. I know how. And part of that is just being around long enough and knowing how all that stuff works. Understanding like, okay, I have a skill set that I can do. And if you have the desire to match that, then you can pretty much do it.
So I know you said before you aren't interested in superhero movies, but what's this I hear that there are at least rumors that you're interested in Batman?
I've had rumors about that since season 1 of Mad Men. I've never had a conversation with anybody about it, literally. And I've sat in the rooms with all these guys. Never been offered anything. I think the internet wants what it wants. I can't control the internet.
Would you like it?
Depends.
On what?
Script. What the story is. I'm a huge comic book fan. Always have been. I read comic books since I was, 9 or younger. And I'm pretty knowledgeable about a lot of them. And I like the genre, and I like them when they're done well. I saw Black Panther. I was like, this movie's great. A friend of mine is a showrunner on Legion, which I just watched last night. It's great. So there's a lot of interesting things out there, but it depends on the story. You know, it all comes down to the story.
But could you see playing it?
Sure. I mean, sure. I'd probably fit the suit. You know, I have to work out a lot, which I don't love. But you know, it's sure. I'm sure there's an interesting version of that being out there, and if they wanted to tap me on the shoulder and ask me to do it, why not? But I mean, you know, a lot of people have to sign off on that, obviously, not just the internet.
$1 Million Arm. What attracted you to the role?
I love baseball, you know that. I loved the story. I loved that it was a true story. And I really liked the idea of making a movie that had a happy ending and heart, and was a story that I could take my, you know, nieces and nephews to. And I remember when we got the chance to make that movie, I just thought, like, oh, this is like a lovely story. And the fact that it's true really resonated, that this guy really kind of put it all on the line, and he wanted to, like, see what he could do with bringing this part of our culture to another culture. I think that's it's just a nice message, and I was happy to be. It was a nice palate cleanser after playing Don Draper to play this guy who's, you know, got a little bit of the huckster in him, but is also, you know, learns a lesson that, you know, it's important to be, you know, a family. There was something nice about that.
Describe what it was like shooting in India.
It's madness. There's so many people. The first day we shot, it was like shooting on the street. It's like shooting in Times Square on New Year's Eve. It's just all people, and cows, and cars, and noise, and smells, and everything. And you're thinking, like, all right, well, we got to do this thing. So should we? Here we go. Let's go. Both feet. Let's just go.
What most sticks out to you from the actual experience of filming there?
It's just sensory overload. You're all five of your senses are just constantly overloaded, and it's once you kind of get your head around it and get used to it, which takes about a week or 10 days, it's really lovely. And again, like, I'm a big believer in just sort of like, well, this is what it is. You can't go and shoot a movie in India and expect it to be like the backlot at Warner Brothers. Why would you? So let's really, you know, sink into it.
What were you able to do outside of filming?
Nothing. I was shooting every day. I got to see, like, a lot of things in vans on the way to set, which was a real shame, because I really got into. I feel like every night when I would get back to my hotel room, I would be on Wikipedia looking up something that I had learned that day about Hinduism or something, or Zoroastrianism, or you know, the makeup of how did Mumbai get to be Mumbai? Like, what did the Dutch have to do with, like, this? What is the, you know, just learning. There was something to learn every day, and that was exciting. I wish I had more time to have actually gone and, like, seen it and learned about it, instead of just going from set to hotel to set to hotel.
So what do you remember from hosting the ESPYs?
It was fun. It was fun. I remember there was a joke in the monologue that was meant to be set up by a video clip, and for whatever reason the clip didn't play, and the joke actually worked better and got a big laugh, and I was like, okay, well, this is gonna go okay. But it's all, you know, it's so fun to be in that room, because you get a chance to, you know, sports and Hollywood have a weird kind of overlap, but it's professional athletes do such amazing stuff, and you're just like, wow, like, you're really doing it. This is great, and to be able to celebrate that's fantastic, fantastic. I was pleased that they asked me too. I was like, okay, sure.
You have a favorite skit from the time hosting?
Oh, I don't even remember the sketches we did when I hosted the ESPYs, but no, it was. I'm there as a host. I'm there as a facilitator, and and make sure everybody gets their awards on time.
What's the preparation involved for a gig like that?
Hosting that, it's not much. I mean, you have writers that write the monologue. You have, you're contributing obviously to, and telling them what you like and what you'd rather do or not do. But hosting's great. It's a good reminder to just remember that it's not about you. Like whatever award show you're hosting, the host isn't getting any awards. It's like your job is to make sure that the actual people who deserve to be celebrated are.
When it comes to film roles, what's your process involved with preparing for a role?
Ideally, like by the time you're on set, you're ready to go, and you've had those conversations, and you've thought about your things, and you so rarely get a chance to really rehearse anything. But everyone's different. Mine is a little more internal, and again, like I said, I just like to be really present. I think that's the only thing I can really do.
Internal in what way?
Just like think about it by myself. I don't like to talk to people about it.
And what will you think about?
The part, the role, the character, how it works, how we're going to play this scene, what we think, the logistics of the work. And other people like to, talk about it and really kind of hash it out. And so, okay, what do you think? Can I do? What do you? I don't mind doing that. I don't mind being the other person. I just don't prefer doing that.
What's a character you played recently, and what was that kind of internal process you had of kind of working through how
Well, I had to go do a
it?
film recently where we were shooting in Morocco. And you're already kind of a little left of center because you're in a foreign country, and they're speaking 3 languages on set, and you're not really sure who to ask and how to ask and what the custom is or whatever. And so, again, by that point, the director and I had tons of conversations, and everybody was on the same page. But you just gotta be prepared to like face what the day is going to be, and that means you gotta be, gotta know your lines, and I had to speak Arabic in that movie, which is not easy. You're just constantly going over it, and then trying to make it disappear. Trying to make it seem as natural as possible. It's like learning to dribble with your left hand. You don't get good at it by thinking about doing it. Do it. Some actors are born with a preternatural ability to just walk right into something and be awesome. I think most actors it takes time to get good.
What makes you realize when you're playing a role well?
It's a good question. I feel like there's something that just settles, where you just, again, like it just feels like it's not happening. It feels like you're not acting. You're just there, and you're just hyper present, and it's fun. It becomes fun.
In the remaining moments, comedy. What do you like about comedy?
I've liked it since as early as I can remember. I just loved listening to comedy records and the 80s comedy cassette tapes, and kind of digging out, finding little weird moments. Saturday Night Live was a big influence in my life because it was live television. It was before the era of the VCR. If you didn't see it, you missed it. And it was something that it was vital. There was something new and exciting and cool about it, which is the best part of comedy. It's like somebody coming at something from a place that you haven't thought of, making you laugh about it, or just think about it. I mean, a lot of comics are they're, the main point is to get a laugh, but it's also to kind of make you think. That's what I loved about it. That's why the guys that I grew up on, whether it's George Carlin, Carlin's stuff was wildly heady. But just, yeah, Monty Python, like all the SNL guys. And then as I kind of moved through my existence and moved out here, you know, the scene was Sarah Silverman and Patton Oswalt and Paul F. Tompkins and Zach Galifianakis and Tenacious D and all these guys that were really kind of blowing up at the same time, and all just wildly smart and funny, which is something I respected.
So the first time you were offered to host Saturday Night Live, what was it like turning it down?
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I had planned a trip that I couldn't unplan.
How do you handle that one?
I said to my agent at the time, I was like, you have to be very delicate with this and say that I'm not turning it down because I don't want to do it. I wildly want to do it, but I can't. I don't know how you make that argument, but please do. And effectively, they did. And it was nice because obviously Mad Men was very cyclical and there was another opportunity. But I got to host it 3 times in 2 years. I mean, and it's so fun. Oh, it's so fun. I was just there a little bit ago. I saw my friend Bill Hader host. It was nice. It was really nice.
That first experience, though, hosting, describe what you remember.
It's a roller coaster. What I realized was it's a roller coaster. And it's a roller coaster that's pretty well designed. It's not going to fly off the tracks unless you do something ridiculous to make it fly off the tracks. And so your job is to hang on, hold on, and enjoy the ride. And it's thrilling. Your stomach drops out and you go upside down and you go around the corner and your hair falls, and so it's crazy fun. But I realized that literally like 5 seconds before they pushed me through the door. I was like, oh right, this is a roller coaster. Just ride the roller coaster, man, and enjoy it. Cue cards are right there. They push you and pull you and stick you on your mark. The rest of it is just enjoy it.
How many Saturday Night Live sketches can you recite verbatim?
Probably not as many as I used to, but I do have a pretty good working knowledge of the history of that show. And there's a really cool thing that you can do when you're there. They have like a database, basically, and kind of in-house network and computer that you can pull up any sketch from anything from the past 40 years, basically. They have it all digitized somehow. And I think it's mostly so they can make sure they're not cannibalizing their own things. They're like, we did that in 1984. Like, but also it's like to see, I think, how to do things, who did what. Would it be fun to kind of revisit, things like that. It's pretty cool.
What do you think Lorne Michaels likes about you?
Well, Lorne is famously kind of inscrutable. So I don't know.
But you guys are friends.
I wouldn't hazard a guess. Yes, I think we're friendly. Yeah, absolutely. I do hear from him, if he's visiting in town, hey, you want to have dinner? And that's always a nice message to get, and it's always a fun dinner. You're sitting with a person who's a legend in his own time. I mean, who doesn't want to sit at that table? And I've been fortunate enough to have dinner with Lorne, Mike Nichols, Marty Short, like people like that, and the idea of, I just love listening. Listening to them and I mean, kidding me? Like that's the best.
What impresses you about Lorne?
His longevity. I mean, comedy is a young man's game, and Lorne's been at the top of it for 40 years, longer even. He's just been doing SNL for 40 years. It's impressive to have the charisma, intelligence, whatever you want to say, but the ability to stick around that long and to be relevant that long, it's impressive.
How are the nerves?
Well, again, like when you realize it, when you look at it that way, that they evaporate. You're just like, again, in that world, it's a cocoon, and you are well taken care of. And a friend of mine had told me, like, here's my, I said, I need one piece of advice. What's one piece of advice? And he goes, be their guest. Act like their guest. You're their guest host. Be their guest. Behave like a guest in someone else's house.
Is there a single moment from the 3 times hosting that most sticks out to you?
Oh, no, not one single moment, other than kind of, no. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't change a thing. I loved it all. It's, you know, the epiphany moment of kind of standing behind, in the back of 8H and kind of getting pushed out through the thing. That was exciting. That's a rush.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, bud.